Welcome back to the Dynasty Daddy YouTube channel. This past week has been an absolute whirlwind. I've been glued to my devices trying to see what in the world's going on. A lot of big moves. This is one of the most active free agencies I can remember. So let's break down some of the big moves from a fantasy football perspective and then try to cover what players we should be buying. Is this an opportunity to sell? Kind of what the outlook looks like. Anyway, let's jump on into it. First up, we got the most traded player on Dynasty Daddy in our trade database, DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf went to the Steelers in a big blockbuster deal and also got a $115 million contract, which I'm jealous. Maybe one day. Honestly, for me, it's kind of underwhelming. Right now, we don't really know who's going to throw the ball to DK Metcalf. But if we look at his stats last year, he had 158 fantasy points, 108 targets, 66 receptions, 992 receiving yards, and 5 receiving touchdowns. To me, he's starting to get to that Olave Waddle tier of they're young, people still believe in him some, but he's going to start aging out of that range soon. Currently, where he sits on KeepTradeCut and ADP Daddy, he's wide receiver 31 on ADP Daddy. KeepTradeCut, he's at wide receiver 22. Around the Zay Flowers, DJ Moore. DJ Moore is a good value comparison of he's kind of always going to be all right, but he's not going to be that true wide receiver one that we really wanted him to be. If we take a look at the draft board, he's currently going in the 5th round, late 5th round on KeepTradeCut, and mid 7th round on ADP Daddy. So again, wide receiver 2 range, that's kind of his ceiling to me, especially in the offense that we don't know the quarterback. That's going to be tough to know. Is it someone I want to invest in, or is it someone that his best days are behind him? If we compare him to Pickens, I know a lot of people are saying, how will this offense work? You kind of have two guys that get a lot of their receptions outside the numbers, and that's what the stats say. If you take a look at his success rates and as well as his heat map, you see a lot outside the numbers. DK does have more in the middle. He's a more complete wide receiver at the current state, but I mean, Pickens is a lot younger. It's going to be interesting. You're going to need to find someone that can take advantage of both of their skill sets. I've heard rumors that Pickens might be traded, but until I see that, I'm not going to bet on that. But in general, without a quarterback, without having the stability there, I'm not super confident investing in DK long term. Let's take a look at some trades that we got. Obviously, trade database has been popping off with DK Metcalf. He's the #1 traded player with over 500 trades in the past week. Here's a great example. Taking a DK Metcalf 103, tearing up for Brian Thomas Jr. and also getting a first back. I mean, I'll take that any day of the week. Here's another one. Derek Carr, DK Metcalf, tearing up a quarterback, getting a more secure option in a Kyler Murray. If you need a quarterback, great time to move a DK Metcalf. Uncertainty, volatility in the markets, as we see in real life markets, but that's a great time to make moves, whether it's selling or buying. There's a lot of volatility on DK Metcalf right now. Another great example, if you're a contender, sell back, get a Joe Mixon, pick up a 27 first. Great production, and especially in a 8-team start 9, very shallow league, DK Metcalf's going to be even less valuable. I'd rather take a shot on the first round pick, have the flexibility, and pick up Mixon, who last year was a difference maker, even in a shallow format like this. Next up is one of my favorite moves of the offseason. We have Davante Adams. Obviously, Davante Adams has been elite for a long time. He's a little bit older, 32 now, but signs a big deal in LA. The team up with Puka and Stafford. The landing spot is exactly what you want. He landed in a spot that loves to just funnel targets to their top guys. So he's going to plug in, basically get Cooper Kupp usage in LA with a high quality offensive scheme and Matthew Stafford, one of the best quarterbacks out there. Perfect contender buy. If I have a contender, I'm trying to buy if I can for a reasonable price. Last year, he scored 198 fantasy points on 141 targets, 85 receptions, 1,063 receiving yards, and 8 receiving touchdowns. Here's some of his advanced metrics. Again, I mean, really good outside, which I think will complement Puka really well. Just a dominant wide receiver. If we look at his trade values, he's currently wide receiver 47 on KeepTradeCut and wide receiver 48 on ADP Daddy, kind of falling within early round 10 range on both fantasy markets respectively. He's kind of one of those perfect older aging players. Sure, there's the Stephon Diggses and the Tyreek Hill types players still out there. Davante Adams landing in this spot. I don't think there's an offense that funnels targets to players more than the Rams. This is a perfect spot for fantasy. Let's take a look at a couple trades. Anywhere in the world, I can get 2 third-round picks and ship them off for Davante Adams on a contending team. Done. And here's another interesting deal. I know a lot of people love Jalen McMillan. With Godwin coming back, you got to kind of step on the brakes a little bit. Just trading flashy, high upside players that people are excited about. Give me the guaranteed production of Davante Adams. At the end of the day, I don't really care if I have the most fantasy value on my team. I want to win. So that's an amazing win now move. Next up, we got Haley Joel Osment of quarterbacks, Sam Darnold.
I want to tell you my secret now.
Seeing ghosts.
Honestly, for me, this is one of the worst spots he could have gone to. Last year, obviously, he had an incredible year. 319 fantasy points, 361 completions, 4,319 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. In 2024, had the second highest time in the pocket of 2.6 seconds. In an elite offensive scheme, he is now going to an offense that doesn't have Justin Jefferson, doesn't have Hawkinson, doesn't have Addison, doesn't have even Aaron Jones type passing threat, to the 29th offensive line where Jake Bobo is your second best receiving option. That's concerning to me, especially from a quarterback that's only really done it 1 year. It's not like a Baker, where Baker, we've seen him do well in Cleveland. We saw him do somewhat well at the Rams, and then he did well in Tampa. Darnold has only really put one good year together, and that is in the best situation you could ask for. If we take a look at KeepTradeCut, Darnold currently sits at 25th. And on ADP Daddy, he's 27th, kind of going in the range of Anthony Richardson, Tua, Dak Prescott, Matthew Stafford, those types of players. And honestly, if I can use a Darnold to tear off to a more stable quarterback option or kind of get into a younger option, like if I'm convinced Bryce Young is good, which we have the football back here. So I need Bryce Young, please, to be good. I'm more inclined to do something like that than ride the Sam Darnold experience. If we look at him going in drafts on KeepTradeCut, currently an early 7th round pick, and on ADP Daddy, he's all the way down to the 10th round. I don't expect him to get steamed up too much because what was baked into his value was the fact that he was an elite offense. So I know a lot of people were hoping he would stay in the Vikings situation. I would be much higher on him in that situation. So let's take a look at some trades. Obviously, any first, I'm getting off of him. Just give me the flexibility. I can figure out what the hell to do at quarterback. And then here's another example. A lot of Derek Carr. Derek Carr sneaks into these trades. But you got Derek Carr, Sam Darnold. Can I tier up to a more stable asset like a Trevor Lawrence? You know, as a NC State fan, not the biggest fan of a Clemson guy, but Trevor Lawrence is a much more stable asset than a Sam Darnold. Let's keep the train rolling with Geno Smith now becoming a Raider. To me, nothing really changes. He's still a very old quarterback, but he's locked into a decent offense, better offensive line, better weapons, but I don't think it changes his outlook a lot. If we take a look at his trade values, he's currently quarterback 30 on KeepTradeCut, and on ADP Daddy, he's also 30. Around the Stafford, Derek Carr, Russell Wilson range, and then all the speculative second round picks like Ewers, Milroe, Dart, those types of players. On the draft board, he's currently a mid 10th round pick on KeepTradeCut and a mid to late 12th round pick on ADP Daddy. I think he's a good value, quarterback 2 ceiling type player, going to have a better offense. Still, he's not that exciting. He's like that Stafford where it's like, I don't want to go buy him, but if I have him as my QB2, that's fine. Let's take a look at a couple trades. Geno Smith for a second. If I'm a team that's quarterback needy, sure, this is fine. I will say in a 10-team league, I probably just don't care. Here we got Geno Smith in a third for a 205. I think this is a decent deal. If you trade back, pick up some future flexibility, and you address quarterback need, I think that's a great move as well. And this is a 12-team league, so quarterback's definitely more valuable here. Again, a solid player. He should be locked into similar production that we saw in Seattle. Next is a bit of a surprise, but Justin Fields, 2-year, $40 million contract with the New York Jets. At a high level, if anyone is biting that Justin Fields is a long-term guy, trade him away. I mean, this dude's a roller coaster. When you just think it's over, it's like, nope, someone still will find a way to take a shot on Justin Fields. It's like a game of hot potato. You can pass the hot potato if you want. But hear me out. I do think he could be a potential buy if your league is low enough. He has put up quarterback 1 seasons, and if you are sitting there as a contender and you either have that one elite guy, you have like that Lamar, and you want to just shoot a shot on another quarterback that's cheaper that could give you that production, that's the only case I would really look at buying Justin Fields. But let's take a look at some of the numbers. 120 fantasy points last year, 106 completions with 1,106 yards, 5 passing touchdowns, 1 interception. We did see him kind of rein in a lot of his dumb mistakes in Pittsburgh and kind of did pretty well. I was a little shocked that they benched him for Russ, but I do trust whatever Mike Tomlin does at this point. If we take a look at KeepTradeCut, currently he's quarterback 27, and on ADP Daddy, he's 29. One of those like low-end quarterbacks, people are not buying in on him yet. We will definitely see that slowly start trending up, especially on ADP Daddy, once people start taking him over players in that range. But if we look, he's kind of going around Geno and Matthew Stafford and Anthony Richardson type value players. I do think this is one of the last chances you really have to sell high on him. If you are not a locked-in contender, I would be looking to sell him at all costs. Let's take a look at the draft. Currently for KeepTradeCut, he's going in the early to mid 9th round. And on ADP Daddy, he's at the end of the 11th round. So clearly, people that are doing their startup drafts currently are not buying in on Justin Fields. That will slowly start to trend more just as we get more drafts. But still, late round quarterback, that's kind of what we expect. Let's take a look at some trades. Here's an amazing trade. Justin Fields, 211. Give me Josh Jacobs. Easy, you're probably going to get RB1 production. I'm doing that any day. Here's another one. Justin Fields to 103. Move back 3 spots in the draft and get a first. Get a first in value for Justin Fields. Again, amazing cash out, and you can kind of finagle. The guy with the 106 probably really wants to go up to the 103. Fields has some heat to him, so you can trade him and pick up some value there. Here's another one. I don't know who in the hell is doing this deal, but someone must believe in Justin Fields. Fields for Lawrence straight up. Lawrence just has a security. I don't really care if his ceiling is lower than Justin Fields. Give me the security. Lawrence has also put up a QB 1 year. People just seem to forget that. Next up, we got Aaron Jones, 2-year, $20 million contract to come back to the Vikings. Aaron Jones last year was Michael Scott meme. Snip, snap, snip, snap. You're getting the vasectomy. You're not getting the vasectomy. I kept buying and trading this guy because I thought he was going to be kind of worthless once he went to the Vikings last year, but he proved me wrong. He put up amazing numbers at his value, which is something to consider, right? I mean, if you're paying elite price for someone, you need him to put up elite production. That's why Garrett Wilson has been such an annoying player, because his price has always been way overvalued to what his actual production is. Aaron Jones is the opposite. He's been super cheap and able to put up solid low-end RB1 numbers, high-end RB2 numbers, and those are the types of players you really want to round out your roster that's competing. Let's take a look at some of his stats. He had 216 fantasy points last year, 255 rushing attempts, over 1,000 yards, 5 rushing touchdowns, and 400 receiving yards to go on top of that. That's the advantage of in Aaron Jones in the PPR league. He does have that passing upside. RB39 in ADP Daddies. And if we look at KeepTradeCut, he's currently around RB43. So again, very low value player, floating around all these speculative guys that haven't really proved much, like a Blake Corum, a Garindo. I expect Aaron Jones, with the contract that he got, making about $10 million a year, the team is committing to him as an actual producer on the field. We'll get to some players later where you can kind of say, oh, the contract doesn't really correlate to getting a lot of usage. Let's take a look at just his draft position. Currently on KeepTradeCut, early 13th round pick. I mean, you're telling me I can get a potential low-end RB1 at 13th, smash that, and ADP Daddy in early 12th. He's someone that if I have a contending roster, I'm actively going to go try to buy, because he's going to be a lot harder to buy when he's scoring, 14 points a week. Let's take a look at some trades. 2/3, Aaron Jones, easy. I'm going to take that almost any time. Aaron Jones, the 111 from James Cook. I love this type of deal. You have a guy that people are steaming up, a James Cook. Can I break him into a guy that's probably going to score similarly and pick up a first that could be whatever I need it to be? I love that type of deal. This type of deal is a little bit crazier, but you take a Puka, break him into a Jones, a Pickens in the 101. I thought it was interesting, but if you're taking a big asset that you want to split, like a Puka Nacua, if you can pick up a player like an Aaron Jones, you have some sort of floor for production. You pick up some other elite assets as well. He's a great throw-in in big deals like this. Next up, another Steelers move, or lack of a move. Najee Harris, former Steeler, goes to the Chargers for a 1-year, $10 million-ish contract. I think it's more like 9.5. Flex upside RB doesn't really change a lot about him as a player. He's kind of TD dependent, but does have a pretty safe floor. If we look at his numbers, 186 fantasy points, 263 rushing attempts, a little bit over 1,000 rushing yards, 6 rushing touchdowns, and 283 receiving yards. Again, nothing crazy. He's not a world beater, but behind a good offensive line, an offense that wants to run the ball, he's certainly an upgrade to a Dobbins and a Gus Edwards and Vidal. This is good for the Chargers, good for Najee. And if you look at his contract, it's pacing with the contracts of like an Aaron Jones. So I do expect Najee to have some sort of role. I expect him to be a completely fine flex option in most leagues. KeepTradeCut, he's currently RB32, which seems a little bit low to me. RB34 on ADP Daddy. He's around the likes of a Chardonnay. To me, I would rather have Najee just because he probably has a locked-in role. Dobbins, Pollard, Benson, Pacheco, James Conner. I mean, I would definitely take James Conner. He's kind of getting to that tier where he's going to have locked-in production, just not going to have a sexy young name that people want. If we look at the drafts, he's currently an early 11th round pick on KeepTradeCut and a... What in the world? I guess they are both 1103. You can lock it in. If you have the 1103, it's going to be Najee. If you can pick up a guy that's going to score you 10 to 16 points a game and Najee Harris in the 11th round, those are the types of picks you want to take. Let's take a look at some trades. Jacoby Myers and Najee Harris for Ricky Pearsall. Everyone is hyping up Ricky Pearsall. If you need some guys that you can lock in, Najee Harris has been underrated for a while, and also I think Jacoby Myers is one of the best buys. And gotta rep the pack. So of course I think that's a good way to split an asset that's kind of speculative into two players that have kind of locked in production. We got Najee Harris for Polk in a third, an early third. These are the types of trades where it's like, let's get off the falling knife of Polk, who had a terrible rookie year, but still some people might buy into him because he was a second round wide receiver. A great type of deal. Those are deals I am sending out nonstop if I have players like Polk. So I know Will is giving me a look right now and telling me, hey, wrap this up. So we're going to do a lightning round to kind of cover some of the other small moves that have some sort of fantasy aspect to them. So let's jump on into it. We got Chris Godwin. To me, this is a good signing, meaning that the injury isn't as bad as we thought. An amazing contender buy hold. He had great usage earlier this year. He was wide receiver 1 overall, I think, for a little bit pre-injury. So again, expect amazing usage. Might take a little bit for him to ramp up. Mike Gesicki, decent cheap tight end option in an elite offense with Joe Burrow. He's a good player to target for cheap or use as a throw in if you're trying to make a trade with a team and you're like, I need a tight end. Let me go get a Mike Gesicki. Zach Ertz, C above. That was my notes. Basically the same thing. Performed really well. Obviously a safety blanket for Daniels, and that offense is probably just going to get better. Next we got Javonte Williams. Let's pump the brakes. He only got $3 million from Dallas. Players that got more money than him: Samaje Perine, Elijah Mitchell. If I can sell him for any second, I would. Maybe pick him up for a third, but he's just any running back with a pulse at this point, even though he has a name that people like. Samaje Perine, who cares? He's a backup. Elijah Mitchell going to Kansas City. Interesting, but again, probably just a backup. Darius Slayton. I don't know why you back up the truck for Darius Slayton, but not Barkley. But I don't really care, to be honest. Maybe if I'm playing in like a 12-team start 20. But anyway, that covers my lightning round. If you stuck through it all, thank you so much. I appreciate you watching. This has been an amazing free agency period, and we still have more moves to go. We don't know where Rodgers is going. We don't know what the Giants, the Steelers, a lot of teams that still have needs, especially at the quarterback position. So it'll be interesting to just, keep our ear to the ground, figure out what they're doing. Stay tuned. We got more coming to the channel and more coming to the site, and definitely check out the Discord. And I'll see y'all next time.